Now to the how-tos. Hopefully you're still with me. Hopefully I haven't put you off, but I do want to cover all the basics, the pros, the cons, and the realism of getting a six-pack. What we want to look at first is our nutrition. We have to start with consistency, and we have to get that right at the start. Usually we will have to lose some calories from our intake, so a calorie deficit, and usually what I'd recommend is 300 to 500 calories a week for the first 2 to 3 to 4 weeks. Now, here's a key thing to remember. If you have a lot going on in your life, lots of stress, lots of load, lots of physiological load, life is coming at you, lots of turbulence in life, then you have less of a window of change. Now, what I mean by that is if you have lots going on, if you're adding a lot of change to your life, that is more stress, that is more intensity, and the chance of you sticking to that change is greatly diminished. So you have to start what is right for you. You have to start with a change which is realistic to your current state of life. If you have not much stress on, you're in a good spot, everything's going pretty smoothly at the minute, you can increase that change. You can add a little bit more intensity, maybe 500 to 600 calories. I'm just throwing some figures out there. But here's the key thing. If you have a lot going on, start realistic. Start with what works for you. More intensity, less change you should start making. Less intensity in your life, less turbulence, then you can probably up the intensity of that change. So with all that in mind, figure out what sort of loads you have in your life right now. If you're going through a divorce, for example, and you're trying to change loads in your diet, realistically, you're not going to stick to it. It's going to be too much load. Don't get me wrong, if you're going through a divorce but you still want to change, you just start small, start incrementally. You don't have to do everything at once. More intensity, make less of a change. Less intensity, make more of a change. So consistency with your food, get that right to begin with, or get that right throughout the duration of this goal. And you notice I'm not telling you what to eat. You can eat anything. You can lose weight on any food as long as you're consistent with it. Is it a healthy approach? Not necessarily. But what I'm saying is do not restrict yourself to the point of a narcissist or putting yourself down or affecting your mental health, putting you into a deep hole, which is making this goal miserable. Getting a six-pack is tough. It is very hard. And there has to be some discipline with your food. But don't get to the point where you're restricting yourself that it's just tampering with your mind and it's just affecting everything else in life. So whatever you choose to reduce out of your food, out of your current nutritional intake, be consistent for the first 2 to 3 to 4 weeks and then play around, tweak as you go, but be consistent. The second how is the actual training. But remember, you can't spot reduce body fat. So you can't do loads of sit-ups and then reduce fat in that area. It doesn't work like that. I wish it did. I wish life was easier, but it just doesn't. That's why I put nutrition at the start. So what abdominals are there? One, you have the rectus abdominis, which is the one a lot of people train. That's where a lot of people do the sit-ups. Is it the most important? Not in my personal opinion. The rectus abdominis is more of a stabilizer, a deep stabilizer. It's actually really good for impact. So say you're on a rugby field and someone comes in, barges barges into you, the rectus abdominis tightens to stabilize, to avoid you getting injured. You have the external obliques, which are actually the biggest abdominal muscles. External obliques, which allow for lateral flexion of the spine. Then you have the internal obliques, which lie just in front of the external obliques. Then you have the TVA. This is the one I think is the most important. In fact, I know it's the most important because the TVA is a major stabilizer of the lower back, otherwise known as the lower abdominals. And then one which is not as important is the purvidaPLUS, and that's what comes down towards the lower pelvis, leading towards the bladder. So theoretically, you can train these different muscle groups every single day. You can do the lower abdominals on a Monday. Then you might do external obliques, internal obliques on a Tuesday. And then you do the rectus abdominis on a Wednesday. Maybe you have a day off and then you can do the TVA again and the external and rectus. So we don't necessarily have to have a crazy amount of time off. We just need to be educated on what we're working and when we're working. You wouldn't do rectus, external, TVA all in one session if you want to do your abs the next day. We need to be strategic and we need to be smart about it. But this is where education comes in, which is hopefully what I'm providing today. So they're the 4 main groups which you should be targeting when you're working your abdominal muscles. But remember, you can't spot reduce body fat. So don't imagine you're doing your sit-ups and you're reducing fat at the same time. That's not how it works. Remember, get the nutrition correct. The final how-to is what I call my 6 concepts of a strong core. The first one is variety. The human body is beautiful and it moves in so many different directions, but yet we train it on these isolated machines, off the floor, in these one-dimensional movement patterns. Move the body. The body loves to be moved because that's how it's designed to be. Do weird exercises in a safe manner, as long as you don't have any pain. But move your core, get your core moving in different directions. Remember, a different stimulus provides a different outcome. So move the core and just get that core, the abdominals working in different planes of motion, and you really see the difference in the aesthetics of the core. 2 is to work full range. We work a lot of movements from the floor, whether that's a sit-up or using our legs to bring them back to center. But what I love to do is sit-ups from a Swiss ball, for example. The spine can extend about 30 to 40% for full abdominal activation. So we're losing a lot of activation if we're doing sit-ups from the floor. So using Swiss balls, full spinal extension. And then you can use your legs off a bed or a bench or even a Swiss ball. Again, going further past the floor to get the abdominals in a very strong and full range of motion contraction. So think full range. You can work from the floor. Try to progress to full range of movements as well. More range, more activation of the abdominals. 3 is isometric. So this creates rigidity and tension in the spine. This could be your side planks, this can be your planks, single arm planks, or jump on a gymnastic ring if you really want to work an isometric hold. But again, creating tension and rigidity. And then we have rotation. Rotation of the spine. Rotation of the spine is beautiful. It's healthy for the spine. It's designed to rotate. So let's move it in that way. You can do some kettlebell rows, you can jump on a band and just get the spine moving. Again, you can even put a Bosu ball on the feet just to test the stability even more, test the core out even more. Remember what I was saying? Think variety. So number 4 is rotation. 5 is anti-rotation. This is any exercise where you're trying to resist an external force or resistance, which is causing a rotational force. That's quite a technical name for it. But for example, if you're holding a band out and you're trying to hold that band, but it's trying to pull you back from the side position, that's an anti-rotation. Or a single arm Romanian deadlift where you're on one leg. The rotation of the hips are trying to pull you out. You have to try and keep them in that position whilst balancing on one leg, balancing on the terrain that you're in. 6 is reactive core. This is when we're working on unstable and uneven surfaces, which are unpredictable, like climbing on rocks or doing some band work where you're working some balance off a Bosu ball. Again, testing your reactive. Reactive core will prep you for the unexpected events of life. Oh my word. This is a heavy post. But if you combine all of those movements, think about the muscle groups that I mentioned: rectus, external, internal, TVA, purvidaPLUS. If you're working my 6 concepts as well, what were they? Variety, full range, isometric, rotation, anti-rotation, and reactive. This is what's training the abdominals. This is what's training the core to be a healthy core, to be a strong core. Be good with your food, be disciplined, reducing the calories incrementally at a time, when you need, how intense is up to you. Then combined with your training, good sleep, good hydration, this is the path which is going to get you on the path. Did that make sense? This is the path towards that 6-pack. I really hope you enjoyed this one. I tried to not go too intense or too technical, but I did want to really help you out today and give as much away as possible, as much information I can to help you on your journey to getting a 6-pack, if that's your current goal. Trying to talk about the pros, the cons, and the considerations that we have to think about when trying to pursue this goal. And I really hope I covered a lot today. I hope you learned some bits, and thank you for your time. If you enjoyed this one, give this one a like and subscribe. It would be really cool for me. I'm on this 100-day challenge of posting on YouTube every single day for 100 days. So yeah, more people watching, the more value I can provide to more and more people. Thank you so much. I will catch you soon.